Welcome to Profit First Nation, the official podcast for entrepreneurs who are operating their businesses in the zone of permanent profitability. I'm Mike Michalowicz, the author of Profit First, and now here's your Profit First Nation guide, Danielle Mulvey.
Welcome back to Profit First Nation, my entrepreneurial friends. Today, we're going to talk about some of the realities when it comes to implementing Profit First. And the biggest reality is most people implement it, but then fall off the wagon in short order. So I'm going to help you avoid being one of those statistics, because it really is something that you need a mind shift on, a behavioral shift on, an emotional shift on, a logic shift on, and something that you just have to get committed to making it work and be successful. My dad, when I started my first business and I was kind of complaining about things, and he said, if it was easy, Danielle, everyone would be doing it. So you have to embrace the suck. You have to embrace the hard work. You've gotten this far. You're 1 out of 10 people who created a business. You're 1 out of 10 people who employs and gives other people opportunities and jobs. You have a business that is creating a wonderful product or service for the world. Let's make that a long-term security for you. The funny thing when it comes to Profit First is a lot of people are uncomfortable with the thought of scarcity. When you're operating out of one business checking account, it looks like you've got a shit ton of money, but you don't really have a shit ton of money to spend on operating expenses. And that's the problem with operating out of one business checking account. So the important thing is that we are not in this to be about scarcity. We're in this, guys, for long-term security. When you are allocating to profit, owner's pay, tax, and operating expenses, or those sub-accounts under operating expenses like payroll, bills, subscriptions, marketing, etc., then you are building a sound and healthy business that will give you and your employees, your family, long-term security. All right. The funny thing about money is that tragically, money is 90% emotion and 10% logic. The emotion is from how we grew up. How was money perceived, discussed, utilized? Was there a scarcity mindset in your household? Was there just never enough? And so when we take what we had in childhood when it comes to money and we apply it into business, it can shoot us in the foot. So we need to flip that, and we need to be 90% logic and 10% emotion. Put all of your chips on proven processes and systems when it comes to operating your business, and don't get caught up in the emotion. Don't get caught up on that little voice saying, oh, it'll be fine, because that is just going for short term instead of long term. We want long-term security. The funny thing is that, again, it's this sort of really, honestly, huge challenge for entrepreneurs, because you have a little bit of creativity inside of you. You have a little bit of competitiveness, or a lot of competitiveness inside of you. You want to make things great and special for your customers. That's why you decided to start a business, because you said, hey, I can do this better than Joe Schmo or the guy that I'm working for now. So you created your own business. But in that aspect, we can get caught up with getting too consumed with chasing the new. Again, this is the emotion. We're chasing that next sale. We're chasing that next opportunity. We're saying we need this equipment in order to grow. We're chasing growth, and we're letting that emotion take over instead of being pragmatic about the situation. So again, when you implement Profit First and you have these allocations, you have these designated buckets for your money, these designated accounts for your money. You've got the profit, the owner's pay, the tax, and the operating expenses, or those sub accounts under the operating expenses. Now you know what you have to spend, and you figure it out. You figure out that, hey, we only have this much to spend on marketing, so we need to be really savvy on it. Hey, remember, if you haven't heard this episode, a reminder that your marketing should produce a 6x return on investment. So every dollar you spend in marketing should produce a 6 times return. 2 times isn't even worth the money it's printed on. You need to push and make sure that you're measuring marketing to get that 6 times ROI. All right. So we're going to focus on the logic, guys. We are going to stay committed to operating our businesses for long-term security. Businesses that implement Profit First, over 1 million businesses have done so. And people who have successfully implemented Profit First and kept with it live a lot less stressful lives than those who are operating out of one business checking account. And, things happen. So let's walk through the pitfalls that can stymie or get people with good intentions that have started implementing Profit First, but don't quite get it to that rhythm that it needs to be on and stay consistent with it. The first pitfall that people fall into is they think Profit First has to be all or nothing. So when you read Profit First, like I did, and you see those target allocation percentages, and you're a type A personality, maybe like me and 98% of other entrepreneurs, you think, oh, no problem. Mike Michalowicz has never met Danielle Mulvey, or insert your name here. And you think you can hit those target allocation percentages out of the gate, which is what I did with Profit First. When we implemented Profit First in our business, again, I said, oh, Mike Michalowicz doesn't know Danielle Mulvey. She's a high achiever. She can hit these target allocation percentages. And so we did our first allocation based off those target allocation percentages, and it was mind-blowing, amazing. We happened to have a record amount of income in that period for that first allocation day that we were accumulating towards. But when it came to our second allocation period, oh, what a disaster. It was a total disaster because we bit off more than we could chew, and we went at those target allocation percentages out of the gate. And that's when I said, okay, I really want to get this right. I understand that I messed up and I didn't follow the instructions. And because I'm such a high achiever and a little bit crazy, what did I do? I became a certified Profit First professional. And now my life mission is to have this podcast and to do keynotes and work closely with Mike on these workshops and opportunities to make sure that you don't pull a Danielle Mulvey and do too much out of the gate and think you have to be all or nothing. When you correctly implement Profit First, you are moving your allocation percentages to profit, owner's pay, tax, operating expense up or down 1, 2, 3 percentage points quarter over quarter. To be honest, it takes 6 to 8 quarters if you're an existing business to get to your target allocation percentages. It's okay. It doesn't have to be all or nothing out of the gate. Give yourself the grace, give yourself the time, and give yourself the ability to be successful with Profit First when you realize, hey, this is going to take 6 to 8 months, and that's great. It's all good. Now, if you're a new business, then you can hit those target allocation percentages out of the gate because your business knows no different. Okay. But if you have an existing business, slow your roll. We're just going to do our instant assessment, and we're going to incrementally move those target allocation percentages up or down 1, 2, 3 percentage points quarter over quarter to get to those target allocation percentages. The next pitfall is too much comfort in the status quo. Hey, we've been in business for a year. We've been in business for 5 years. We've been in business for 10 years, and we've made it okay with one account. And it just seems like a lot of work to open up multiple accounts, to change things up. I talked to my bookkeeper. They haven't heard of Profit First, but when I told them that we were going to add accounts, they're like, that doesn't make sense. And they think that it's going to make more work for them. It doesn't make more work for anyone. When you want to open up additional accounts, you just need to send an email to your banker at the bank and tell them you want to open up additional accounts, and they're going to be thrilled because most bankers, they get actually a spiff or a bonus on opening additional accounts for existing account holders, because that means more of your money is going to be at the bank and you're going to be less likely to change when you have multiple accounts at that bank. So your banker is incented. They're going to be delighted when you send an email saying, hey, I'd like to open up 4 additional checking accounts. And you've got to get past any fear. I know a lot of people feel embarrassed, like, oh my gosh, usually my bank account has $100 in it because when money comes in, it's gone in a flash. And so you're embarrassed when you have an account balance of $100 to go into the bank and say, yes, I need 4, 5, 6 more accounts. And that's okay. Let that fear go, because your banker is going to be excited. They don't care if you've got $10, $20, $30. You're going to be stickier with them when you implement Profit First and you add those bank accounts to your existing banking relationship. So do not be fearful. When we have fear, we're paralyzed. Again, we're letting emotion take over. And we don't want to be 90% emotion. 90% emotion is a recipe for failure, my friends. Move it to 90% logic. Trust the process. Trust the system. Trust the million businesses that have successfully implemented Profit First and have raving things to say about Profit First. You will never meet someone who has successfully implemented Profit First and slowed their roll and gotten to their target allocation percentages and said, oh, well, that was a waste of time. That was a big mistake. Yeah, good luck. That person doesn't exist because they trusted the process. They went all in on the logic and they squashed that emotion down from 90% to 10%. The other pitfall is timing and life realities. Yeah, things are going to come up. And that's when people tend to get off the rails when it comes to continuing to work towards successfully implementing Profit First and working towards those 6 to 8 quarters to get to their target allocation percentages. This is a new behavioral system. This is logic, and this is a proven process and system. When you trust the process, it will work for you. When you hijack the process, you don't have a process anymore. You've discombobulated it. That's why you have to stay true and specific to the process and to the system and avoid temptations to hijack it. When you don't have enough money in an account because you've allocated a percentage and that percentage wasn't enough, that's a gift, because you are immediately seeing what is wrong with your business. Let's say it's allocation day and it's time to allocate, and you allocate to your percentages, and in your operating expense account, gosh, you came up short. I don't have enough money to pay all the bills that are due. What do you do in that situation? Well, you're going to have to delay paying some bills. You're not going to rob from profit to pay that bill. You're not going to rob from owner's pay to pay that bill. And you're not going to rob from tax to pay that bill. You're getting this gift of, hey, why don't I have enough money in my operating expense account? And that, my friends, is because there's not enough money in the income account. Profit First is a percentage-based system. So the percentages help normalize your cash over time. Now, The issue is what's the balance in your income account on your allocation day. You should kind of know what your average needs to be in your income balance. And there's going to be times when, let's say, your average needs to be $15,000. When you have $25,000 in your income account, wow, you're going to be allocating more money based off the same percentages into your accounts. When your average needs to be $15,000 and your income is $10,000, you're going to come up $5,000 short for sure. But that $25,000 period is going to help build those reserves in those accounts over time so that you're covering yourself when you end up having that $10,000 income allocation day when you really needed it to be that average of $15,000. And when you do have that low $10,000 below average income balance on an allocation day, that's your sign to take action right there. Hey, why did we come up short of our average? What's going on? Do we need to pick up the phone? Do we need to make a phone call? Is our AR aging, getting too big? Are we not within the 10 days our net terms should be in? Or do we have clients that are now pushing 15, 20, 25 days? That is giving you immediate feedback on your business. The beauty of Profit First being a cash management system is it tells you what's going on in your business right now. Yes, you do need a bookkeeper or an accountant to prepare your financials. But when you get your income statement, your profit and loss, and your balance sheet on the 15th of the next month for your prior month's business, what can you do about that? What can you change? Nothing. Because your financial statements are a rear view look at your business. It's gone. That month is closed and there's nothing you can do or change about it. But when you have Profit First and you're seeing how your income balance is growing every day towards your designated allocation day, whether it be the 10th and 25th or it's every other week, but it's on this rhythm and you're seeing, hey, gosh, our allocation day is 2 days from now and we need to average $15,000. Right now we're sitting at $11,000. Where's this other $4,000 going to come from to get us up to our ideal average? That's your sign to say, hey, do we need to pick up the phone now before our allocation day? What do we need to collect to make sure that our income balance is getting and is at what we need it to be? Profit First actually helps you be better in real time. Just avoid getting hijacked or getting caught up in seasonality. So go to one of our drip episodes. The drip account is for businesses that are seasonal, that have slow months, etc. And your drip account will get you through those slow months because there is no excuse for life realities and timing. When you stick with Profit First, it will see you through everything. Profit First saw our businesses through COVID because we had cash in the bank in our profit hold accounts. We didn't need to go after PPP money because we had cash in the bank to bank on ourselves. And we decided not to go after PPP because there were other businesses that weren't in a position. They were operating out of one business checking account. Their money was gone in a flash. They were operating check to check. So those people did PPP, but we didn't have that stress because when you have cash in your business and you have these allocations, then you are on a path to permanent profitability. And the final pitfall is really mindset of growth versus profitability. And so this is where the emotion comes in, and we have to decide between emotion and logic. Growth is drawing us towards that emotion. Oh, we got to do this. Oh, we got to do this. We like the excitement. We like that risk because we're entrepreneurs and no one's as crazy or riskier than entrepreneurs, but we've got to be careful. And so it's a decision to save or to spend. And when you decide to save, you're going to be more profitable. When you decide to spend, then that's going to tip the scales and reduce your profitability. So the decision and your mindset needs to be about protecting the profitability of your business. Because when you protect the profitability of your business, you are increasing the value of your business. You're increasing your opportunity for an exit, whether it's a desired exit or it's a tragic exit, because you've exited this world. I mean, I hate to break it to you, but we're all not going to live forever. So you want to set your business up for success. And when you have profit first implemented in your business, you are set up for a very lucrative exit and a higher valuation than those businesses that are willy-nilly letting emotion drive their business and operating out of one business checking account. I know that you guys have this in you, and to stay on that right track, to stay on the path to permanent profitability, to avoid the temptations, hey, wouldn't it be great to have an accountability partner helping you along the way, helping you stay on track, helping you get it right, and helping you be the most profitable business that you can be? Well, my friends, then connect, please, with one of my fellow Profit First professional accountants, bookkeepers, or coaches. I just want to say it's really important that you work with a certified Profit First professional. Too many people read the book and kind of do it their own way. And there is a big, big difference between someone who's winging it when it comes to profit first and saying, oh, I know how to do this, and someone who is a actual certified profit first professional accountant, bookkeeper, or coach. So please connect with one of my fellow certified profit first professional accountant, bookkeeper, or coaches by going to profitfirstnation.com and clicking on contact. Cheers to another profitable day, my entrepreneurial friend.